Ready? Play.
Okay, next up, Novak Djokovic against Carlos Alcaraz. I said I was awake until I can't remember if it was 5:30 or 6 o'clock this morning. Keeping across this, we did have a watch along for it. We also have a watch along, by the way, for Iga Swiatek against Anisimova. So do tune in for that in a few hours from now with Damien and Vanch. And I hope we'll have a watch along for this. I'm optimistic we will for Alcaraz Djokovic on Friday. It'll probably be the first match, given that they are the first established semi-final, and they are established in slightly different manners. Let's begin with Djokovic. 4 sets win over Taylor Fritz. Give me some thoughts on that encounter, Mario.
I would say, it was a good win, at least from my point of view, from what I was expecting, Djokovic to play and to bring on the court. I've seen, a good version of Novak Djokovic, what I was, expecting to watch. Of course, not the 2015 Djokovic version, but it was a good one in a tough match. Fritz, we know that never beat him in 11 matches, but still right now, the challenge of facing Fritz, is a bit more difficult than it was 3-4 years ago for both reasons. Both Fritz, being a better version of himself, and also Novak, of course, having lost just a little bit of his performance. So for me, it was a good match. Very good in getting that break to avoid getting dragged into a long fourth set and maybe even a fifth, who knows. But yeah, I mean, he did what he needed to do. Actually, a strong start. Even erasing some opportunities, because Fritz had opportunities in the first two sets, many of them actually. But that's why Novak Djokovic, I think, he's still who he is at 38, not just because of quality of his game, but also because he's still able, at least against everybody but 2 players, to raise his level when it matters, and that's what he did actually. And he did it in the first 2 sets when he was facing troubles. He did it in the fourth, when after Fritz had won the third and he was getting close. They were not breaking each other in that fourth set, and then he manages to break in the 10th game, and avoiding the 5-game solve, because then you never know what can happen. So I would say that I'm, let's say, satisfied with what I watched, because I know what I can expect from Novak, and I think this is more or less what we have seen.
I thought Djokovic defended better than I've seen him defend for a long time. I think, which is because he was under pressure a lot more than 9 times out of 10, and the odd occasion when he's under pressure, it's Sinner, or I nearly said Swiatek there. Well, maybe one day it's Sinner or Alcaraz that are applying that pressure, and perhaps the ball is just coming up at him a little bit faster. But I thought, because I think defense is probably the first thing that goes. If you have the defense, but I think about it myself on the tennis court as I get another year older, and actually I'm playing against a guy frequently who's about 15, 16 years younger than me, and he's been getting closer and closer to me, and now it's kind of 50-50. And I think my defense is just a few centimeters makes a huge difference. But I thought yesterday Djokovic defended really, really well. I do agree with Gene in that there's just 1 or 2 moments when maybe Taylor could have been a bit more aggressive, but ultimately Djokovic did incredibly well to save those break points. But there was the first set, Djokovic is serving it out and has to save a bunch of break points there. I thought then that was huge. I thought if Fritz gets the break here, I think he really can win the first set. And actually, if he wins the first set, I think he goes on to win the match. I do think there's been some. I know Jake on social media was saying that this is a matchup problem. I would agree with that for the previous 10, but this is the first one, because I know they had a 4-setter in Australia, I think, didn't they? But that was Djokovic having hundreds of break points and not taking them.
Yeah,
remember.
I know.
So this was kind of a role reversal of that. But anyway, listen, I do want to move over to Alcaraz and get into that matchup as well. Alcaraz came through in straight sets yesterday over Lehecka. And this new version of Alcaraz, just winning in straight sets and getting to Grand Slam semi-finals, is taking some adjusting. Mario?
It's, it was bound to happen, in my opinion. Just because he is too good to not have, these sort of runs. And also considering both the opponents he faced and also his own level, which has been very, very high. I think it's fair that he still has to drop a set. Of course, considering how how Shelton was playing in this North American season, and also the fact that French Open match was a good one. Probably many people were, maybe wanted that match to happen and were curious, but of course this hasn't been the case. And he played very, very well, because Lechka at times tried to do something good, especially at the beginning of the third set. Once I saw that Lechka got his first 2 holds from love 30 down, and I was, who knows, maybe, Lechka can get some confidence from that and play better and better. I think somehow he did it. And Alcaraz was just too good yesterday, and overall this was, let's say, 8-9 days so far. I don't really have much to say, rather than the fact, of course, we are watching a very, very good version of Alcaraz, actually since months, only losing 2 matches, and both finals, Barcelona, and especially Wimbledon. It can happen to lose a final to Sinner. So we're really watching a huge consistency. Actually, from both these 2 players. If Sinner wins today, both will have over 10,000 points in the ranking. So this says it all. And
Yannick and Carlos, yeah.
So just an amazing moment for them, considering they really build a huge gap between themselves and the rest of the field. That actually, if not for Djokovic's presence, which is still a character you want to watch, and he has the quality to do something special, you still kind of think of these slams lately like a long process towards that final. And we'll see if it happens.
Indeed. So obviously Djokovic, Alcaraz, 8 times they've met. That of course has moved a little bit in the direction of Djokovic, thanks to that win at the Olympics a year ago. And then probably even more relevant regarding this match was obviously their hardcore quarterfinal encounter in Australia that was 4 sets. Alcaraz wins the first set, and I think the second set was super, super tight. I remember a moment in the second set, I think... was the second set maybe 6-4 Novak, something like that? Or was it a tie break?
He breaks. Yeah, basically Novak, he had that injury issue
6-4.
in that match. Novak manages to start with a break in the second set, but when Alcaraz breaks back, so from love 3 to 3-all with Novak's issue, you start thinking like, okay, maybe but no, it didn't happen. Novak managed to turn that match around.
There was a point as well, Mario, I think around about 4-5. I think it might be set point. I think Alcaraz is serving at 4-5 and he's facing a set point, and he has a chance at a smash, but it's a nervy smash, and instead of smashing it, he lets it bounce. And maybe that was the right decision, but it goes back to neutral from that moment, whereas the point probably ends either in his favor or in Djokovic's favor if he takes the difficult smash, because he could miss it, of course. But instead, he fancies himself from neutral, which actually only probably 2 or 3 players on the planet from neutral would fancy themselves against Novak. Of course, Yannick being the other one, currently anyway. But anyway, let's get into this match and maybe even giving a prediction. It's going to be coming up in a couple of days. It'll be the earlier match, so it won't be the later match. I do think that might just give 1 or 2% towards Carlos. I also think compared to Australia, I think US Open probably will always be a slightly more favorable slam for Carlos in terms of output and results, maybe a bit like his compatriot Rafa Nadal. Traditionally, New York tends to be a bit slower than Australia, and I think that might well favor him. And of course, he's got an incredible pedigree in Indian Wells, where we know the conditions are super slow. That's Alcaraz I'm talking about, but maybe Rafa too. What's going to happen on Friday?
I mean, Alcaraz is the favorite in the match.
Yeah.
Even though, of course, we have known the head-to-head lately, 4-1 in the last 5 matches. We've
Yeah.
seen Alcaraz having some, let's say, little struggles mentally in
Yeah.
these matches against Novak lately. Olympics, probably also because of how huge the moment was, trying to get the gold medal. Australia, because of many different reasons. I'm expecting an incredibly aggressive version of Novak Djokovic. Already trying with a forehand to do as much damage as possible. I'm really expecting Novak to be this aggressive, a bit like he tried to do against Sinner at the French Open. Well, I mean, he didn't win a set, but it was a good showing from his point of view. He was good physically compared to Wimbledon, where the physical aspect weighed in too much. So we've seen Novak struggling physically a bit in this tournament, asking at times for the physio. But it seemed like he has managed to have everything under control, and this is good because, of course, I think we need a good version of Djokovic in order to keep up. I think Alcaraz, for many reasons, is the favorite. I think right now we can't really say that Novak starts the matches against Alcaraz and Sinner as the favorite, but of course, we know that even if best of 5 is long, probably Australia taught us that there's still some slight shift in matches, which can, start making the other player, in that case, Carlos, a bit doubtful. I agree with the fact of the 2 days off being,
Yeah.
of course, a huge factor here because, Novak, of course, had the toughest road to the semifinals. So having a couple days to just reset and kind of prepare to, let's say, almost a one show off, a match where I have to give it all. We'll see. I'm not entirely writing him off.
No, definitely not.
But yeah, of course, I see Alcaraz as the favorite for all the reasons I've mentioned about how well he's playing, and of course about, despite the head-to-head, Alcaraz is the fresher one,
Yeah.
and so I would say he's the favorite for this reason.
Me too. I also think that if it goes 5, it does depend on momentum a little bit, as always does in tennis. If Alcaraz is leading 2-1 or 2-love, and we end up going 5, that would be something in Novak's favor. But generally, if it's a normal-ish match and it goes 5, 2 reasons. Novak, I don't think it's been 5 sets for about 18 months. I'm going to say the French Open of last year.
Yeah, true, against Wimbledon.
Exactly, yeah, which ultimately he won, but then couldn't play the next match, I think, wasn't it? So, yeah, I do think, and then Alcaraz's 5-set record, which is just phenomenal. I think it's 12 from 13, something like that.
Actually, I think 14-1 or
14-1, is
13-1.
it 14 from 15? Wow. I can never keep up with his 5-set record. I know it's always one loss against Matteo Berrettini in Australia, but it must also be like 10 or 11 in a row as well, because it was one of his early 5-setters that he lost, maybe even his first, I don't know, against Berrettini. No, it wouldn't have been his first, because I think he had some in New York maybe the year before, no? And he won. I think he might have had one in New York.
Yeah, in 22. No, that was in 22 against Tsitsipas, of course, in 21.
Yeah, 21
5.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't his first, but yeah, one of the first ones he played.
Exactly. I'm going to go Alcaraz in 4 for this.
Yeah, it seems likely. Well, this 5-set speech probably, amused me a bit. Probably Novak can make much competitive, probably wins 2 sets, but I still think Alcaraz wins in the end.
Wonderful. Thanks very much, Mario. Do check out Mario, of course,
Thank you.
on social media. I think I have your current and your actual X account there. We know, unfortunately, what happened to the previous one, but you're up and running, and you're doing very well again with your new one. So do give Mario a follow on X. Do give us a follow as well at Talking Tennis 22 on X, but also on Instagram at Talking Tennis TT and TikTok as well. I've done a few TikToks in the last few days, so we're catching up with the 21st.
I never downloaded TikTok in my life.
I download and delete it, not because I dislike it or anything. It's just space on my phone. But Scott Barkley is a regular TikToker, and for that reason alone, I think it's worth joining and checking it out. But yeah, big thanks, Mario, for joining us today.
Thank you.
And of course, we will, of course, have watch-alongs for Iga Swiatek against Anisimova, but I think we'll have probably both women's semi-finals tomorrow as well. Tomorrow. I think we've already done a Pegula Sabalenka semi-final preview, so do check that out as well. And Alcaraz Djokovic on Friday. I'm sure we'll be covering that too. So everybody else, thanks for joining. Of course, this was a live show for members only. We had 1 or 2 members joining in, so thanks for that. And you can become a member too by clicking the join button.
4th consecutive Grand Slam semi-final of 2025 for Novak Djokovic, not for Carlos Alcaraz, even though he's made 2 finals. But yeah, I mean, I'm probably still going to pick Novak to lose again. The semi-finals is where his body has been kind of like breaking down this season. But he did beat Carlos in Australia, and just the way that Carlos has performed in this matchup since Cincinnati 2023, or rather after that match, even earlier, maybe Roland Garros, when he had all that pressure coming up and barely slept before the match. Like, you can see that this is a major one for him. And I think 3-5 down in the head-to-head against Novak too, considering all the aspirations that Carlos has to like become the greatest of all time or something, regardless of if it's realistic or not, I think he will really want to have at least one more against Novak, and you never know how many times they'll play. I think that if both players are just competing at their best standard and mentally quite composed, it's tough right now to imagine Novak winning in best of 5 against Alcaraz or Sinner. But if it's going to happen against either of them, it's pretty clear that it's against Carlos. He just matches up so much better and can frustrate Alcaraz in many ways. I think that Carlos has been phenomenal this event. He hasn't dropped a set. He's so focused. He's serving amazing. But he will probably drop one here. I think it will be a bit of a tougher encounter for him. But still, I mean, I would pick him to win. In the longer format, I probably have to.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.